It will be in two parts to start with. First part will be clinical sciences, where I will talk about first auscultation, then also other aspects of examination, JVP, other things. So first I will start with auscultation. The other part will be learning through cases. So what we will do is we will take some real life cases and then we will discuss them. And then it will be an interactive thing. You can always ask questions, etc. Through those cases, we will read the textbook. So we will not study the textbook. There is no lecture sort of thing, but it will be case based, where cases will be there and you can learn through cases. So coming to this first part, that is the clinical examination. So I will be starting with auscultation, because I think this is one of the most important things. So before that, I wanted to tell you something. I don't know whether you know or you don't know that Indian doctors have become a brand name outside India, especially United States of America. In USA, Indian doctors are a brand name. People want to show to Indian doctors, all the patients, and that is interesting because there is a lot of racism, but still people want to show to Indian doctors. So why has the, and why I say so? Also because number of Indian doctors is increasing. Now 1 in every 8 admissions in US medical school is an Indian origin. 1 in 5 in PG level are Indians, and in super specialties 1 in 3 are Indians. So 33% of USA doctors in super specialty are now Indians. So why is that? So there are few things I wanted to tell you so that you understand what is our importance in the global setting, in the world setting. Indian doctors can work long hours. So we know that when we are as residents, we are given 24-hour duty, 36-hour duty, etc. And Indian doctors are able to carry out these duties. After those duties, they can even take part in the round and then also carry out the post-round orders also. So they are capable of doing mental and physical activity for a long time, which other doctors or other nations are unable to do. Number one. Second important thing, I think, which is more important, that Indian doctors have tendency to keep updated. So whenever something new comes, they pick it up the first. So if you look at in cardiac sciences, echocardiography came in 1980s, then angiography came somewhere at the same time, angioplasty 1990. So many cases it was Indian doctors who picked up the first. They might not have started the thing, but once it is there, then they pick it up very well. And they, all the clinical things in heart failure, for example, the Indian doctors have made seminal contribution. They are some of the best in the world in heart failure field. So the point is that they keep updated, they quickly gather information and they keep updated, and then they, how to do that? They participate in a lot of meetings, conferences also, and they themselves organize a lot of conferences even though they have long working hours. So out of their working hours, they can still have energy to organize meetings and to participate in meetings. So this is the second point, that they have this tendency to update themselves. Like you know, iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4 comes. So Indians are the first to get mastery on that kind of thing. So they always get the first to get new skill and get new information. So this is something which is in our gene. Third thing, I don't know whether you have it now or not, but Indian doctors have good listening skills. So what is listening skill? When some patient is telling about something, don't interrupt in between. Listen him completely. And that kind of a skill Indian doctors possess. So what I am trying to tell you is, this is the kind of a skill that you should also try to get. That listening skill, listening to the problem of the patient, of the client, whatever you may call, but this listening skill and communicating skill is very important. Although we always have a language barrier, we are not taught in English, English is not our first language, but when we go to US, we pick up English, but we are very good in communication. So that part is very important. And the last point, and which is the most important point, that why do patients go to Indian doctors? Why do they go? Because they know that Indian doctors have good clinical skills and examination skills, and they will make a diagnosis very few differential diagnoses, so that lot of investigations are not done. Now in West, what is the tendency? Everybody gets 100 tests done. But if you go to an Indian doctor, he will look at the patient, find out what is the problem, and then limited number of investigations they will order. So which patients like very well, because otherwise you tell them list of 20 investigations, very difficult for them to get everything done. But if you give 3 or 4 important things, then they are very happy. So what is important there? That you should have very good clinical skills, examination, auscultation, etc. So my idea of this is to at least update you and keep you abreast with the clinical knowledge that is available, which has been a forte of all the Indian physicians internationally. In UK, USA, in UK actually other doctors are afraid of Indian doctors. They don't want Indian doctors, they want them to run away, because they know that these Indian doctors are so good that they will make diagnosis even without investigation, which they don't like. But this clinical examination is becoming a skill that is lost. I don't want you people to lose this skill, and I think that is important. So what is the importance of getting clinical skills including auscultation? Number one, you can decide the future course of action. You can know what investigations to order, and then what more tests to do, and then how to treat. So this is number one. Number two, for some of the, especially in some of the heart diseases, non-CAD, non-coronary artery diseases, structural heart diseases, this is maybe the most important investigation, more important than other investigations, clinical auscultation, because that will shortlist your possibilities and you will order the right kind of things. Don't waste patients' time and money. So it is very important for diagnosis of a non-ischemic structural heart disease like valvular heart disease, congenital heart disease, restrictive disease, etc. But at your level, even more important than all three is that it will help you pass exams. Because if you don't have good clinical skills, you won't pass exam, that I can promise you. So you need to have good skills for this simple reason of being able to pass exams. Now coming to auscultation, as you know, auscultation of heart involves two things. You look at sounds and you look at murmurs. So these are two things you are looking at. You are looking at the sounds and you are looking at the murmur. So which means you need to know what sounds are normal, what sounds are abnormal. Also you need to understand that practically there are some physiologic murmurs also, but most murmurs are abnormal. So if you find a murmur, if you put your stethoscope on the chest and you find some murmur, you know something is wrong with the patient. Clearly, this much is sure. Now what is wrong, of course, depends on other things. But that is why importance of putting a stent to the patient, because as soon as you put a stent to the patient, you will know that if something is clearly wrong with the patient or not. It is possible that patient has no murmur and has some heart disease and some other problem, but if you find murmur, then you are sure that something is wrong, more or less, and you start looking further. So this is the importance. Now, how do you identify, number one, what is the sound? Number two, what is the murmur? So how do you identify what is sound, what is murmur? What kind of sound is this? What kind of murmur is this? Because you need to know, otherwise how will you decide? So you need to, one thing is you hear a murmur, you know, okay, something is wrong. But what is wrong? Then you need to know the type of murmur. What is wrong? You need to know the sounds. And based on these sounds and murmurs, you will make your diagnosis. So what is important in identifying what sound and what murmur it is? One is sight, where you hear that thing. So if you hear a particular sound, where you are hearing that sound, where you are hearing that murmur, whether it is at the base is, for your information, left second intercostal space is called base of the heart, and whether it is in apex is what? What is apex? What is the location of apex? Anybody? Fifth intercostal space. Yeah, just outside the mid clavicular line. So fifth intercostal space just outside the mid clavicular, that is apex. And there are two other areas. What are those areas? One is lower left sternal border, that is the tricuspid area. And what is the last area? Right second intercostal space, which is the aortic area. So depending on the area. So one is aortic area, this is second right intercostal space, the base or the pulmonary area, which is the second left, then lower left sternal border, tricuspid area, and then apex, which is the mitral area or LV area or mitral area. So site is important. The other thing is timing. So whenever you hear a sound or you hear a murmur, you have to time it. How do you time it? How do you time a murmur or sound? Because you are putting a step, you don't know the time. You don't know whether a heart is beat systole or diastole. How do you know the time? You palpate the carotid pulse, and when the beat comes in carotid pulse, that is systole, and when the beat is not there, it is diastole. This is one. Other thing is you can palpate the apex also, because apex will never hit on diastole. So whenever apical impulse is coming, it is always systole, it cannot be diastole. So you can palpate the apex also, but more reliable is to do carotid. But understand there is a bit of delay, because it takes some time for blood to reach carotid or the vibration to reach carotid. So there may be bit of delay, but in any case, whatever comes with carotid is systole, whatever does not come with carotid is diastole. And then based on that systole, there can be three types of murmur. It could be at the beginning, it could be in the mid, or it can be whole of the systole when it is called pansystolic. So it could be early systolic, mid systolic, or pansystolic. Likewise, diastolic could be beginning, early diastolic, then mid, and then late diastolic or a holodiastolic. Normally holodiastolic is very rare, but it could be holodiastolic. Then the third thing, it could be continuous. We know that, and we will come to that. Third thing that you have to identify is the intensity. What is the intensity of the sound? Particularly with sounds, this is important. Whether question will be asked whether S1 is loud, whether S2 is loud, whether A2 is loud, whether P2 is loud. So you need to understand how do you diagnose intensity. So how do you diagnose intensity? Anybody? Because you have to say no, loud P2. Why you say loud P2? By comparing with other components of the sound. Okay? So S2 you compare with S1, and then A2 you compare with P2. So then you have to know what is A2 and what is P2. Otherwise, how do you know which one is loud, which one is soft? So I think these are the things that I am just putting in your mind, that you keep a track of how do you diagnose these things. So the intensity depends on comparison. Because somebody is thin chested, you can hear loud. Somebody is thick chested, emphysema, you will hear soft. So you can't just based on chest size, the intensity can vary. So clearly just the sound intensity is not important. It is important. What is important is the comparison between different components of the sound. So we will come to that. And the last thing that is important in identifying, sometimes you get confused. So you do certain maneuvers. And what is the effect of maneuver? With respiration, what happens is, with inspiration, venous return increases, right? And LA filling decreases. So any event, right-sided event, because filling will increase, right ventricular filling, right atrial filling will increase. So right-sided events will get magnified with inspiration, and left-sided events will come down. So anything which shows change with respiration, particularly increasing with respiration, inspiration means it is a right-sided, whether murmur, sound, whatever. Understood? With standing, what happens? Venous return decreases. So once venous return decreases, then what happens? Flow across the aortic valve will increase. So any aortic valve event will increase once the venous return decreases. Total volume will also decrease, but peripheral vascular resistance will also decrease. So venous return will decrease, so right-sided event will be less, and because peripheral vascular resistance is decreased, left-sided events could be more. So this is the difference. Squatting, exactly opposite. Venous return will increase and others will decrease. So right-sided events may increase and left-sided may decrease. Then Valsalva, it is opposite of a squatting. Hand grip, what happens? systemic venous vascular resistance increases. So when SVR increases, then what happens? Then when systemic vascular resistance will increase, flow across the aortic valve will decrease. So aortic stenosis murmur will decrease, aortic regurgitation murmur can increase. With amyl nitrite, opposite, vascular resistance decreases. So aortic stenosis murmur can increase, AR can decrease. So what lesion you are wanting to differentiate, you can do this maneuvers, right? Okay. Now sites of auscultation. So we already discussed. Let us first come to apex. So apex is left intercostal space just outside the mid clavicular line, fifth intercostal space. So what are the sounds that will get accentuated here? So remember at apex, what valve is situated? Mitral valve. So sound that will be heard best will be S1. So whenever you have to hear S1 in examination, you don't say that S1 in apex is this, S1 in base is this, S1 in left intercostal space is this. You just say S1 is loud or soft. So question will arise, where do you check for S1? So apex is the point where you check for S1. And looking at the S1 quality, you decide what type of S1 it is. Then LVS3. This is the place where you look for LVS3. If it is lower left sternal border, you look for RVS3. If it is apex, you talk about LVS3. Likewise, LVS4 you hear here. Since mitral valve is in this area, mitral valve prolapse click also you hear here, and opening snap also you hear, right? So this is apex, you look for these things. So opening snap, you are not looking on the right side or back. Opening snap, always you are looking here. This is the point. Then looking at murmur, which murmurs you hear here? You can get mid diastolic murmur, because any mitral murmur will be heard best here. And MR murmur also you can hear, pansystolic murmur and mid diastolic murmur, because remember mitral valve is kind of located here. So any mitral event you will get here. Now lower left sternal border, obviously tricuspid valve is there. So T1 is best heard here, RVS3 is best heard here, a VSD murmur is best heard here, because VSD murmur is between left to right side and it traverses this area. So VSD murmur will be heard here, and of course TR murmur will be heard here, and mid systolic murmur will be heard here. What is the cause of mid systolic murmur? Anybody? What is the cause of pansystolic murmur? I know maybe you don't know, but I'm just reinforcing things. Pansystolic murmur?
Mitral regurgitation.
Mitral regurgitation. VSD. And TR. So these are three pansystolic murmur. Okay. What is mid diastolic murmur? Mitral stenosis, tricuspid stenosis. What is early systolic murmur or ejection systolic? Let us say early, let us leave alone. Ejection systolic murmur, aortic stenosis, and TR, pulmonary stenosis. So what is this mid systolic murmur? So all these things are okay, but what is mid systolic murmur?
Ejection systolic murmur can also be.
No, ejection systolic can be, but ejection systolic is classically different. Organic tricuspid regurgitation, early systolic murmur or mid systolic murmur. This is organic tricuspid regurgitation. Normally the murmur you hear is of PAH-TR, pulmonary hypertension TR. When pulmonary hypertension TR happens, then it is a pansystolic murmur. But when pulmonary artery hypertension is not happening, then it could be a mid systolic murmur. Or basically normotensive TR is early systolic murmur, mitral valve prolapse syndrome is mid systolic murmur. So once you have mitral valve prolapse syndrome, then it is a mid systolic murmur. And if you have early systolic murmur, it can be because of normotensive TR, not hypertensive TR. So I think this is you should know, normotensive TR, as I said. Okay. Now coming to base we know where it is located. Of course, what are the sounds that you hear best here? Obviously P2. And what you hear? ejection click, pulmonary ejection click. Pulmonary ejection click you will hear best because this is the pulmonary area. What are the murmurs you hear? Ejection systolic murmur of pulmonary stenosis. Ejection systolic murmur of aortic stenosis will also radiate here. Although the site it will start from right second intercostal space, but it may very well be heard here also. So ejection systolic murmur of AR may be there. Also continuous murmur will be best heard here. Why continuous murmur is best heard here? Because continuous murmur is connection of atria with either ventricle, but even more than ventricle. It is a communication of great artery with atria mostly. So once you hear this, then it's a great artery, because continuous murmur, for continuous murmur the gradient should be present in systole as well as diastole. So that situation only happens when great artery communicates with atrium. So where does it communicate? Around here only. So this is the site where you hear a continuous murmur also. So if you want to hear a continuous murmur, this is the place. Then right, of course, it's every aortic thing will be heard on the right second intercostal space. A2 sound, ejection click, or ejection systolic murmur of aortic origin. All these obviously you will hear on the right side. Right? Very clear? Any doubts? Anything? So now what I will try to tell you is what is the timing, because timing broadly we know systolic, diastolic, but then within that systolic, diastolic also there are components early, mid, late. So S1 occurs when, and I will show you that. So you put this in your mind, once isovolumetric contraction of ventricle is happening. What it means is, when ventricle is contracting, see what will happen, ventricle is full of blood, right? So when it is contracting, first pressure will start building up. So at that time pressure is building up, but volume is not changed, nothing is pushed forward. So there is a small phase of isovolumetric contraction. So S1 happens when this isovolumetric contraction is happening. So what happens is, when the contraction starts, pressure starts rising in left ventricle. At one point it will cross left atrial pressure, or right ventricle pressure will cross the right atrial pressure. Once left ventricular pressure crosses the left atrial pressure, then valve will close. Okay, so that phase where it has started contracting but valve is still open is isovolumetric contraction. At the end of this isovolumetric contraction, then it will close the valve, and once the valve is closed, then volume will start declining, because then blood will be pushed into aorta. So then this non-isovolumetric contraction will start. Likewise, so S1 happens during the phase of isovolumic contraction, and it is because of mitral and tricuspid valves, that we know. What about S2? S2 happens when ventricle has contracted completely, so it has pushed all the blood, right? Now it has generated the maximum pressure. Now ventricle will start relaxing, but it is relaxing, but the aortic valve is still open. So it will relax once the pressure drops to a significant level, then, because see, the pressure in aorta is slightly less than the pressure in the ventricle. So once it falls to a certain level, only then aortic pressure will exceed the ventricular pressure and it will close the valve. Aortic valve and which one? Pulmonary valve. So pulmonary artery will close the pulmonary valve and aorta will close the aortic valve. So there will be this phase of isovolumetric relaxation, and then these valves will be closed. Now coming to third heart sound. So the sounds are associated with generally closure of valve, but I will tell you exactly now. People have done studies, and now what is the real reason, but broadly it is because of closure of valves. The first sound is because of closure of mitral and tricuspid valve. The second sound is because of closure of aortic and pulmonary valve. Now coming to third heart sound. Third heart sound is not related to closure of any valve, but it is related to ventricular filling, right? So when ventricle is dilated, then what happens when blood comes in? So just circulates around ventricle and it creates a ripple in the ventricle, and that ripple is picked up as third heart sound. So it is because of when it is associated with ventricular dilatation, probably because of ventricular systolic failure, most likely, then it can produce S3. But there could be a situation like dilated cardiomyopathy where failure has not started but just ventricle is dilated, and there also you can hear S3. What is the other condition where you can hear S3? Pregnancy. This is because of fluid overload, dilatation of ventricle. Aortic regurgitation? Possible, not possible? Because aortic regurgitation will also lead dilatation of left ventricle. So you tell me next time. I am not telling anything. You tell me next time whether AR can cause S3 or not. The last is the fourth sound. Fourth sound is basically because of atrial contraction. So once atria contracts, the ventricle is already nearly full, but it pushes because of contraction, and that forceful pushing of atrial blood into ventricle produces this fourth heart sound. And this is especially happens if ventricle is already full. If it is also stiff, then it will not expand. So it will give resistance to pushing blood. So it will cause a ripple, and that thing will be picked up. So particularly high in stiff non-compliant ventricle, which happens with ventricular hypertrophy like hypertension, aortic stenosis, or ischemic ventricle, where because of ischemia ventricle becomes stiff. So this is the reason for S4 commonly, and we will come to these in great details, but I thought I will just inform you. So now coming to the first part, that is heart sounds. So what are the heart sounds that you can appreciate? One is of course S1, S2, S3, S4, aortic click, mitral valve prolapse syndrome click. Likewise, pulmonary click also you can get, opening snap and pericardial knock. So these are the sounds that you can appreciate in any patient. So you have to look. Now understand that only S1 and S2 are normal. Others if seen may happen sometimes, but mostly they are abnormal. So if you hear a third heart sound, if you hear S4, then some young patients can have, as I already showed you, but so some young patients, as I said, normal in children or young adults, S3 can happen, but basically broadly, or in pregnancy for example, you can hear. But basically if you hear these sounds other than S1 and S2, then mostly something abnormal has happened. So what you need to do is you need to put your stethoscope maybe in the base and or in the apex, particularly in the apex. In apex you should hear two sounds only, but if you hear more than two sounds at apex, then you can think that something is wrong. Then you need to figure out whether it is S3, S4, pericardial knock, opening snap, what it is. That we will come later. But the very fact that at apex if you hear more than two sounds, normally something is abnormal with the patient. Some cardiac problem. What cardiac problem? We will come to. So let us come to the first heart sound. So now we saw that first heart sound we broadly saw was because of closure of the mitral and tricuspid valve. We know that. Now one important thing you have to understand, when you hear two sounds as two sounds, like for vision, if you see one image and after some time you see another image, then you can make the difference. But if many images come one after other, if the gap between two images is less, then you think of them as a single moving picture. That's what is utilized in the movies. So there are number of films run very fast, right? This is what happens, and you get this feeling that it is a single image or single moving film. But reality, those things, projectors, they are running at a fast speed, so that one image after image are coming at a difference which is less than what I can appreciate as two separate images. Likewise for sounds, the same thing is there, that two sounds come very close together, you hear them as a single sound. But if two sounds are separated, then you can hear as 2 sounds. So what is that interval where, which if the sound is more than that, then you hear as 2 sounds. So that interval is different for different people, but normally it is 20 to 40 millisecond. If there is a difference of more than 40 millisecond, majority of the people will identify as 2 sounds. So any event that is a difference of more than 40 millisecond will be identified as 2 sounds. So now we know that S1 is because of mitral valve and tricuspid valve, but we hear as a single sound because the difference between their closure is less than 40 millisecond. So M1 and T1 closure happens in less than 40 millisecond, therefore we hear it as a single sound. Had it been more than 40 millisecond, we would have heard as 2 different components, M1 and T1. Right? Clear to everybody? Now we know that mitral valve closure precedes the tricuspid valve closure. Why? Because you know it is because of closure of the valve, and whichever ventricle generates the pressure quickly will cause the closure early. Now we know that left ventricle generates high pressure. Diastolic pressure of left ventricle is 12 and systolic pressure is 120 average. So it has to generate more than 100 millimeters mercury pressure. So the pressure generation is very fast and very high. On the other hand, if you look at right ventricle or pulmonary artery, then the systolic pressure is 25 and diastolic pressure is 8. So it has to generate only from 8 to go to 25. So it has to generate only pressure of 17, whereas left ventricle has to generate a pressure of more than 100, 117, let us say. So it is so high. So that is why, because it rapidly contracts, so it quickly puts the mitral valve before the tricuspid valve closure. So clear? So that is why mitral valve M1 is always early than T1, but because the gap is less than 40 millisecond, you pick up only one single sound. Clear? So M1 is much louder than T1 again because of higher pressures. Because what happens is, generation of sound is where the valve is located. If the valve is located too much, so we know that suppose this is the mitral valve, right? So once aorta is contracting, mitral valve is like this. So the mitral valve cusp, if it has to traverse long distance, then the sound will be louder. Anything you hit from a distance and you hit from close, the difference will be much higher. So because mitral valve, once it starts contracting, the generation of pressure is so high that mitral valve is completely open. At the end of isovolumetric contraction, during the phase of isometric contraction, the mitral valve is completely open, right? And then once the pressure comes up, it comes so quickly that it has to completely close. So the distance traversed and the force with it travels is much higher. Therefore M1 is always louder. Understood this point? Now what happens in mitral stenosis? Mitral stenosis, what happens is, because LA is unable to push enough blood into LV because of stenosis. So the pressure in LA is higher, LA is unable to empty inside into LV. So it continues to push blood. Even during isovolumetric relaxation phase, it is still, so mitral valve is still completely open. So mitral valve is actually wide open, and once it starts contracting, then it covers even more area, and therefore S1 is always loud in mitral stenosis. You understood? Because the valve is even more open. Even than what normally mitral valve is, it is even more than that open, and therefore once the pressure comes, it closes with a loud S1. So loud S1 is classical of mitral stenosis. There can be many other causes. I will come to that, but I am just telling you, trying to make you understand why loud S1 happens and why it is so important for mitral stenosis. Of course, we know T1 is usually heard. I think M1 sound is the main component. Overall, S1 is loudest at left lower sternal border. Because why S1 is loudest? Where is M1 loudest? Apex. But where is S1 loudest? No, left lowest, because there is a combination of T1 and M1 here. T1 cannot go to apex, but at apex M1 is also present and T1 is also present, so combination of two becomes loud. So many times single sound S1 can be heard louder at left lower sternal border. So this is important to realize. Many cases, some cases again depends. If T1 is not very loud, then apex will be the loudest. But commonly this is the place where it is loudest. But M1 is loudest at, as I said, at apex. M1 is loudest at apex. Okay, so M1 occurs slightly before T1, we know that. M1 is slightly louder to T1, we know that. They close almost simultaneously, therefore only one single sound is heard. I already told you this. In 40 to 70% of the cases, a normal split S1 can be heard. Because as I said, majority will hear split at more than 40 milliseconds, but there are people who can hear split also at 20 millisecond difference. And difference between M1 and T1 is around 40 milliseconds. So some people can hear split even at this 20 millisecond difference. So they can appreciate. So there are some individuals, 40 to 70%, who can appreciate a split S1. If they hear at a quiet room, etc., then they can hear a split, because this is just the borderline. Because the difference between M1 and T1 is normally 40 milliseconds. So this is just borderline. But if it was more than 40 milliseconds, then everybody will hear a split. Now the other thing is, I told you, one is where is the valve position on which the intensity of S1 depends. But that is not the only one. Degree of pre-systolic closure. Already before systole, how much mitral valve closes? If it closes very much, then S1 will be soft. For example, in mitral regurgitation, it is already come back, so the S1 may be soft. But if it has not closed at all, then it will be loud, like mitral stenosis, where it has not closed, it is completely open. So then it will be loud. So depending on where the valve is situated, the pre-systolic closure determines the degree, right? And the pre-systolic closure depends on two things. One is, as I said, LA pressure. If LA pressure is high, it is still trying to push blood into LV, so it will remain open for a long time, because to decompensate or to decompress LA, it will take a longer time, so naturally mitral valve will remain open for a longer time. The other thing is, when PR interval is, if PR interval is short, then what will happen? And when it is long, because PR interval is narrow, then mitral valve is completely open. Quickly after atrial systole, ventricular systole started very quick, so mitral valve was open. So short PR interval, mitral valve was open, so loud S1. But अगर लॉन्ग PR इंटरवल होगा तो क्या होगा कि बहुत गैप होगा तो mitral valve काफ़ी क्लोज हो जाएगा, तो S1 will be soft. Third is heart rate. Heart rate में क्या होगा? When heart rate is fast, so अगर ventricle को 100 का pressure generate करना है, it generates only in systole. If there is tachycardia, then systole is short, so that generation of pressure will be high. So tachycardia, what will happen to S1? ओके समझ गया ना, सबके सब समझ गया, किसी को ऐसा तो नहीं है समझ नहीं आया? क्योंकि टैकीकार्डिया में सिस्टोली शॉर्ट हो जाएगा, डायस्टोली भी शॉर्ट होगा, लेकिन सिस्टोली भी शॉर्ट हो जाएगा, तो वेंट्रिकल को जल्दी प्रेशर डेवलप करना पड़ेगा. पहले वेंट्रिकल को 1 सेकंड मिला था 100 प्रेशर जनरेट करने के लिए, अब उसको लेस देन 1 सेकंड मिला, या जो भी है ना. अब फिर थर्ड थिंग इज वैल्व मोबिलिटी. अगर वैल्व मोबाइल ही नहीं है, अगर वैल्व फिक्स्ड है, कैल्सिफिक है, तो क्या होगा? वैल्व मूव स्लोली करेगा, तो फिर क्या होगा? वो स्लोली मूव करेगा तो साउंड सॉफ्ट हो जाएगा. अगर रैपिडली क्लोज करता है तो साउंड लाउड होगा, अगर स्लोली वैल्व मूव करेगा तो फिर साउंड सॉफ्ट हो जाएगा. तो कैल्सिफिक अगर एमएस होगा, वैसे होता नहीं है नॉर्मली, बट एक टेक्निकल पॉसिबिलिटी है कि अगर कैल्सिफिक एमएस होगा तो S1 उतना लाउड नहीं होगा जितना होना चाहिए. लाउड तो फिर भी होगा, लेकिन उतना लाउड नहीं होगा जितने उसकी सिवियरिटी के हिसाब से लाउड होना चाहिए था। सो दैट इज़ द डिफरेंस। और फिर लास्ट में बॉडी हैबिटस, ऑफ कोर्स जैसा मैंने बताया था कि कोई एम्फेसिमेटस है तो उसको तो S1 सॉफ्ट ही लगेगा, या फिर अगर हार्ट डिस्प्लेस्ड है, हार्ट ऐसे रोटेट कर गया है तो माइट्रल वाल्व पीछे चला गया है तो वो तो S1 सॉफ्ट ही लगेगा, क्योंकि अगर हैबिटस ऐसा है ना कि हार्ट रोटेट कर गया तो फिर S1 सॉफ्ट लगेगा। एम्फीसीमा में तो आप बता सकते हो क्योंकि P2 भी सॉफ्ट होगा, ये भी होगा, तो आप फिर भी कंपेयर करके बता दोगे। लेकिन अगर हार्ट रोटेटेड होगा तो फिर तो S1 सॉफ्ट लगेगा, ठीक है ना।
सर कैल्सिफिकेशन में सॉफ्ट कह रहे हो, आपने कहा था माइट्रल स्टेनोसिस में ज़्यादा होगी।
वही तो बता रहा हूँ, माइट्रल स्टेनोसिस में जब कैल्सिफिकेशन सेट इन कर जाएगी तो इंटेंसिटी ऑफ S1 कम हो जाएगा। लाउड तो रहेगा लेकिन उतना लाउड नहीं होगा जितना होना चाहिए, क्योंकि वाल्व ठीक से स्पीड से बंद नहीं हो पाएगा ना। तो लाउड तो होगा वो, फिर भी हमेशा MS की आप लोगों के लेवल पे कभी भी डायग्नोसिस सॉफ्ट S1 पे नहीं करना। प्रैक्टिकली ये बात है, हो सकती है देयर आर पॉसिबिलिटीज, जैसे बहुत ही कैल्शियम हो जाए तो नहीं होगा, बट ऐसा आपको नहीं होना। आपका तो ये है कि MS में S1 लाउड होना चाहिए, और अगर किसी भी केस में कोई भी मल्टीवेल्वुलर केस में S1 लाउड है तो थिंक ऑफ MS। अगर आप किसी में भी S1 लाउड कह रहे हो, यू हैव टू ब्रिंग इन MS। कोई भी आपको वाल्व का केस मिले तो एक बार आपने S1 लाउड बोल दिया, एग्जामिनर ने सोच लिया कि MS है, ठीक है ना, क्योंकि दैट इज द कॉमनेस्ट कॉज। और भी हो सकता है, जैसे मैंने बताया टैकीकार्डिया, ये वो। अगर आप कह रहे हो कि MS नहीं है तो फिर आपको बताना पड़ेगा कि इनमें से कौन सा कॉज है। तब आपको ये कहना पड़ेगा कि भाई असल में PR इंटरवल जो था बहुत छोटा है इस पेशेंट में, या फिर ये चक्कर हो गया इसमें, या वो हो गया चक्कर, ये सब आपको, या टैकीकार्डिया बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है तो हमें S1 लाउड लगे। आपको कुछ बताना पड़ेगा, फिर प्रूव करना पड़ेगा कि हाँ इस वजह से S1 लाउड है। एक बार आपने S1 लाउड बोल दिया मीन्स MS है, ठीक है। अब वो सब तो हमने ऑलरेडी बात कर ली, आई थिंक। हाउएवर व्हेन वाल्व मोबिलिटी गेट सीरियसली अफेक्टेड लाइक सीवियरली कैल्सिफिक MS, M1 में बिकम सॉफ्ट, वो मैंने बताया। बट सॉफ्ट में फिर भी लाउड से थोड़ा कम होगा, लाउड फिर भी रहेगा लेकिन इंटेंसिटी ऑफ लाउडनेस शायद कम आ जाए, ये है कहना चाह रहा हूँ मैं। अब सेकेंड इशू है स्प्लिट S1। अब स्प्लिट का मतलब ये है कि कभी भी आपको स्प्लिट सुनाई देती है तो इसका मतलब 40 मिलीसेकंड से ज़्यादा का गैप है। लेकिन करीब 40% यंगर इंडिविजुअल्स का ईयर इतना शार्प होता है कि वो 20 मिलीसेकंड पे भी पिक कर लेते हैं, तो उनमें स्प्लिट S1 सुनाई दे सकता है उनको। लेकिन व्हाट आर द कंडीशंस व्हेन स्प्लिटिंग कैन हैपन। तो स्प्लिटिंग होने का पर्पस मतलब क्या है, या तो माइट्रल वाल्व जल्दी क्लोज हो जाए या पल्मोनरी वाल्व लेट क्लोज हो, ठीक है ना। ये सॉरी पल्मोनरी नहीं, ट्राइकस्पिड वाल्व लेट क्लोज हो, ठीक है ना। तो व्हेन mitral valve closes significantly before tricuspid valve, then you can split. Here the splitting of S1. कब हो सकता है ये? एक तो RBB में क्या होगा? RBB में जो होगा लेफ्ट राइट साइड का एक्टिवेशन कब होगा? राइट बंडल ब्रांच ब्लॉक है ना, तो बंडल ब्लॉक है तो लेट जाएगा ना एक्टिवेशन, तो ट्राइकस्पिड वाल्व क्लोजर डिले हो जाएगा, तो आपको स्प्लिटिंग सुनाई देने लग जाएगा, सिंपल। तो जब भी राइट अगर आपको स्प्लिट S1 सुनाई दे रहा है तो उसका सबसे कॉमन कॉज RBB भी है कि राइट बंडल ब्रांच ब्लॉक हो रहा है। बिना ECG देखे आप बता सकते हो कि अगर इसका S1 स्प्लिट है इसका मतलब इसको RBB हो रहा है, क्योंकि राइट को स्लो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करना है ना, बाद में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करना है, डिले से कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करना है, ठीक है ना। या फिर कोई रीज़न है जिसमें RV फेलियर हो गया है, कि RV फेल ही हो गया है तो वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ही नहीं कर पा रहा, तो उसका जो है डिले प्रोलॉन्ग हो गया है कॉन्ट्रैक्शन, क्योंकि फेल हो गया है वो, तो वो धीरे धीरे करके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रहा है, तो वो RV जो फेलियर होगा, या RV जैसे जिसमें तो डिससिंक्रोनी है लेकिन RV फेलियर में ऐसा हो सकता है। ऑन द अदर हैंड रिवर्स स्प्लिट कब होगा? जब LV का कॉन्ट्रैक्शन डिले हो जाए, तो या तो नैरो स्प्लिट हो जाएगा या फिर रिवर्स स्प्लिट भी हो सकता है। तो LBB में आपको जो है, क्योंकि लेफ्ट बंडल ब्लॉक है तो लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकल कॉन्ट्रैक्शन लेट शुरू हो रहा है और राइट वेंट्रिकल का पहले हो रहा है, तो हो सकता है ट्राइकस्पिड वाल्व पहले क्लोज हो जाए और माइट्रल वाल्व बाद में क्लोज हो, तो LBB है। तो ये ध्यान रखना है कि अगर आप कभी भी S1 स्प्लिट कर रहे हो या रिवर्स स्प्लिट कर रहे हो तो यू आर मेकिंग अ डायग्नोसिस ऑफ RBB LBB विदाउट सीइंग ECG। यही मैं बता रहा था, जो अच्छा क्लिनिशियन होता है उसको ECG देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो सिर्फ ऑस्कल्टेट करके आपको कोई बता देगा, डॉक्टर की ऐसे रखेगा, कहेगा इसको तो RBB है। आप सोचोगे जादूगर है यार, ये इसने क्या कर दिया, कैसे बता दिया RBB, तो ECG की डायग्नोसिस है, लेकिन उसने ये करा। तो जो अच्छा क्लिनिशियन होता है वो ये चीज़ें पिक कर लेता है। अब एबनॉर्मेलिटीज़ क्या है, जैसे हमने बोला लाउड S1 की, सबसे पहला MS। बाकी कभी भी फ्लो ज़्यादा हो, तो फ्लो ज़्यादा होगा तो माइट्रल वाल्व ज़्यादा खुलेगा, क्योंकि टाइम ज़्यादा लगेगा उसको फ्लो करने का, तो वो माइट्रल वाल्व ज़्यादा खुला हुआ होगा। तो कोई भी कंडीशन जिसमें कि ज़्यादा फ्लो रेट है, एक तो प्रेशर भी LA का बढ़ेगा, एक फ्लो बढ़ेगा, तो एनीमिया, थायरोटॉक्सिकोसिस, सेप्सिस, किसी में भी जिसमें फ्लो बढ़ जाए उसमें S1 बढ़ जाएगा। फिर टैकीकार्डिया, जैसे मैंने बताया, ऑफ एनी कॉज, क्योंकि टैकीकार्डिया में क्या होगा, क्योंकि वेंट्रिकल का सिस्टोली शॉर्ट हो गया है तो राइज सडन हो रहा है तो S1 बढ़ रहा है। तो टैकीकार्डिया ऑफ एनी कॉज, एक्सरसाइज, थायरोटॉक्सिकोसिस इसमें हो जाएगा। और फिर लास्ट वाला पॉइंट, जैसे मैंने बताया, शॉर्ट PR इंटरवल, 120 मिलीसेकंड से कम का PR इंटरवल होगा तो ठीक है ना, लाउड हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वो वाल्व अभी खुला ही हुआ है और एकदम से कॉन्ट्रैक्शन शुरू हो गया। सॉफ्ट कब होगा, जैसा हमने बताया ऑलरेडी, सीवियरली कैल्सिफिक माइट्रल वाल्व होगा तो सॉफ्ट हो सकता है, रेयर कंडीशन है, बट जो ज़्यादा कॉमन है कि लॉन्ग PR इंटरवल है ना। तो किसी डॉक्टर ने इसको ऑस्कल्टेट करा और आपको कहा कि इसको तो यार फर्स्ट डिग्री हार्ट ब्लॉक है, हमने कहा ये तो जादूगर है यार, इसने तो मतलब सिर्फ ऑस्कल्टेशन यूँ एक चेस्ट पे रखा, स्टेथोस्कोप बता दिया कि इसको तो फर्स्ट डिग्री हार्ट ब्लॉक है। ये है कि उसने अप्रिशिएट करा कि S1 सॉफ्ट है, ठीक है। स्प्लिट S1, अब वाइड स्प्लिट कब होता है, जैसा मैंने बताया 70% अप्रिशिएट कर सकते हैं, तो वो एक अलग चीज़ है। लेकिन RBB, तो ये स्प्लिटिंग है इसकी, जैसे मैंने बताया रिवर्स्ड, आपको बता ही दिया मैंने कि LBB में हो सकता है रिवर्स स्प्लिटिंग। तो अब जो है आपको, जो अब हम केस पर आ रहे हैं, केस आपको मिलेगा मल्टी वैल्वुलर केस, कार्डियोलॉजी में भी मिलेगा, मेडिसिन में भी मिलेगा। कॉमनेस्ट केस कार्डियोलॉजी का मिलेगा मल्टी वैल्वुलर केस, एटलीस्ट मेडिसिन को शायद कंजेनिटल हार्ट डिजीज नहीं मिलेगा, मोस्ट लाइकली मल्टी वैल्वुलर केस मिलेगा। तो आपको इसके बारे में पूरी तरह से एक्सपर्ट होना चाहिए मल्टी वैल्वुलर केस के बारे में, और कार्डियोलॉजिस्ट को तो घर होना ही चाहिए। तो अब क्या होता है, लाउड S1 कैसे आप डायग्नोज करोगे कि ये लाउड है S1। नॉर्मली S1 इज लाउडर देन S2 एट एपेक्स बट सॉफ्टर देन S2 एट बेस, ठीक है, क्योंकि S1 है माइट्रल वाल्व की वजह से, ठीक है, तो वो सबसे अच्छा एपेक्स पे सुनाई देगा। तो सेकंड साउंड से लाउड होगा एट एपेक्स और सेकंड साउंड से सॉफ्ट होगा एट बेस। अगर दोनों जगह लाउड है, एपेक्स पे भी लाउड है और बेस पे भी लाउड है S1, इसका क्या मतलब हो सकता है, दो ही मतलब हो सकते हैं, या तो S1 लाउड है या P2 और A2 दोनों बहुत सॉफ्ट है। तो दोनों P2 और A2 सॉफ्ट होना तो बहुत कम चांस है, इसका मतलब मोस्ट लाइकली S1 ही लाउड है। अगर S1 बेस में सेकंड साउंड से लाउड है तो वो लाउड S1 है, और अगर S1 बेस में सेकंड साउंड से सॉफ्ट है, ठीक है, तो या तो S1 सॉफ्ट है या S2 लाउड है, दो ही चीज हो सकती हैं, या तो S1 सॉफ्ट है या S2 लाउड है। अब S2 लाउड है तो S2 लाउड किस वजह से होता है, मोस्टली एओर्टिक के वजह से नहीं होता लाउड, पल्मरी के वजह से होता है। तो आपको फिर ये डिफरेंशिएट करना पड़ेगा कि अब प्रॉब्लम जो है सेकंड साउंड S1 से ज़्यादा लाउड है एपेक्स पे, दो पॉसिबिलिटी हैं, या तो S1 सॉफ्ट है या S2 लाउड है। अब S2 लाउड है ये कैसे प्रूव करेंगे कि आप इधर पे ऑस्कल्टेट करेंगे, इधर पे अगर P2 A2 से लाउड है, सेकेंड स्पेस में जो है नॉर्मली जो होता है क्या होता है, P2 A2 से थोड़ा सॉफ्ट होता है, लेकिन अगर P2 A2 से लाउड है सेकेंड स्पेस में तो इट इज केस ऑफ लाउड S2। समझ गए? इसलिए आपको ये पता होना चाहिए कौन सा साउंड कहाँ लाउड होता है, कौन सा साउंड कहाँ सॉफ्ट होता है। तो क्या समझ में आया कि S1 जो है वो एपेक्स पे लाउड है S2 से, और S2 S1 से लाउड है बेस पे, और बेस पे S2 लाउड है कि नहीं वो कैसे कंफर्म होगा कि अगर P2 लाउड है A2 से तो इसका मतलब लाउड। अब हम A2 और P2 को कैसे डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे, जब मैं सेकंड हार्ड साउंड पे जाऊंगा तो बताऊंगा कि आपको ये कैसे पता चलेगा ये A2 है ये P2 है, वो मैं जब सेकंड हार्ड साउंड डील करूंगा तब बताऊंगा। लेकिन आप अभी ये समझ लो कि इस तरह से आप डिफरेंशिएट करते हो तो कोई कंफ्यूजन नहीं होता, लाउड सुनाई दे रहा है S1 ये नहीं है। अगर S1 S2 से सेकंड स्पेस में ज़्यादा सुनाई दे रहा है, सिस्टली में आप पैल्पेट करोगे जो S1 वाला कंपोनेंट ज़्यादा लाउड है तो उसका मतलब S1 लाउड है, कोई चक्कर नहीं है, ठीक है ना। और अगर यहाँ पे कम है तो उसका मतलब S1 सॉफ्ट है, लेकिन कंफर्म ऐसे करोगे कि सेकंड स्पेस में देखोगे कि P2 ज़्यादा लाउड है कि A2 ज़्यादा लाउड है। अगर A2 ज़्यादा लाउड है तो हो सकता है सॉफ्ट S1 है, लेकिन अगर P2 ज़्यादा लाउड है तो इसका मतलब सेकंड साउंड ज़्यादा लाउड है, ठीक है। अब केस में कैसे आप इसको यूज़ करोगे, प्रैक्टिकली डोंट डायग्नोस माइट्रल स्टेनोसिस अनलेस S1 इज लाउड। ये कार्डिनल चीज़ है, याद रखना। कोई बहुत ही रेयर पॉसिबिलिटी होगी कि आपको कोई S1 सॉफ्ट का MS मिल जाएगा, इतना कैल्सिफिक है कि S1 सॉफ्ट ही हो गया, ऐसा बहुत रेयर है। हो सकता है टेक्निकली सब पॉसिबल है, लेकिन वेरी अनलाइकली। तो अगर S1 आपने लाउड डायग्नोस, आपने अगर MS की डायग्नोसिस बनानी है तो विदाउट लाउड S1 नहीं बनानी है, नंबर 1। नंबर 2, MR में अगर कुछ भी नहीं मिल रहा, कोई मरमर नहीं सुनाई देना, पैन सिस्टोलिक मरमर सुनाई दे रहा है, ठीक है, MR में पैन सिस्टोलिक मरमर सुनाई दे रहा है, लेकिन S1 लाउड है, तो आपको सोचना है कि एसोसिएटेड MS होगा इसके साथ। तो आप कैसे डायग्नोस करोगे कि MR की प्रेजेंस में MS भी है, कि अगर लाउड S1 सुनाई दे जाए तो आपको MR के केस में जिसमें पैन सिस्टोलिक मरमर मिल रहा है लेकिन S1 लाउड मिल गया तो आप सोचने लगोगे कि यार इसको लगता है MS भी है, इवन इफ मिड डायस्टोलिक मरमर इज एब्सेंट और ओपनिंग स्नैप इज एब्सेंट। क्यों ऐसा होगा, क्योंकि MR में क्या होता है, हार्ट ऐसे हो सकता है, तो हो सकता है आपको ओपनिंग स्नैप या MDM ना सुनाई दे ठीक से। आप अगर उसके स्पेशल मैन्यूवर करोगे तो आपको MDM मिल जाएगा, कि आप लेफ्ट लैटरल पोजीशन में करके करोगे तो आपको MDM मिल जाएगा, लेकिन आपको बेसिकली शायद मिस हो जाए MDM। लेकिन अगर आपको MR के मरमर के साथ में लाउड S1 सुनाई दे रहा है तो आपको MS की पॉसिबिलिटी रखनी है। यू कैन ऑलवेज से क्वेरी MS, अगर आप श्योर नहीं हो, को और कुछ नहीं मिला तो। अगर फर्स्ट साउंड स्प्लिट है तो RBB समझना है, और RBB का कॉमनेस्ट कॉज क्या है, ASD। तो अगर आपका फर्स्ट साउंड स्प्लिट आपको सुनाई दे रहा है और आपको केस दिया गया है तो आप सोचने लग जाओ कि ASD होगा इसको। दूसरा क्या क्लासिकल साइन है ASD का, कोई बताए, मैं तो अभी बाद में आऊँगा, लेकिन अगर किसी को पता है तो बताओ, कार्डियोलॉजी वाले नहीं। ऑस्कल्टेटरी क्लासिकल साइन क्या है AS का, ये तो स्प्लिट S1 तो बहुत कम में मिलता है, मतलब 5% में मिलेगा, 10 में मिलेगा, इससे ज़्यादा नहीं मिलेगा, 5% में ही मिलेगा। लेकिन एक क्लासिकल साइन है जो हर ASD में मिलेगा, जिसके ESM तो किसी में भी मिल जाएगा, जिसके बिना आप ASD डायग्नोज नहीं करोगे कभी भी। जैसे मैंने बताया ना, MS आप कभी भी डायग्नोज नहीं करोगे विदाउट लाउड S1, ऐसे ASD कब तक आप डायग्नोज नहीं करोगे, कभी भी डायग्नोज नहीं करोगे जब तक वो फाइंडिंग ना हो। और वो फाइंडिंग क्या है, पैन सिस्टम ASD में, पैन सिस्टम मरमर कहाँ से आ गया, फिक्स्ड स्प्लिट, वाइड फिक्स्ड स्प्लिट, ये खासियत है ASD की। अगर वाइड और फिक्स्ड स्प्लिट है तो देन इट इज क्लासिकल ऑफ ASD। तो उसमें और कुछ हो ना हो, अगर आपको वाइड फिक्स्ड मिल गई, आप मान के चलो कि ASD तो है। इवन विदाउट डूइंग इको, अगर आपको स्प्लिट S1 मिल जाए और वाइड स्प्लिट P2 वो सेकंड साउंड मिल जाए तो आप ASD डायग्नोस करोगे। ऐसा हुआ था क्लिनिक में, मैंने बताया था, तुम थे, कौन था, मैंने किसी ने डायग्नोसिस कुछ और बनाई हुई थी, मैंने एक बार स्टेथ रखा और मैंने कहा ये तो ASD है, ये तो MS है ही नहीं, इसको MS किसने बना दिया, ये तो क्लियर ASD है। क्योंकि ASD में क्या होगा, फ्लो मरमर आ जाएगा ट्राइकस्पिड वाल्व में, तो आपको मिड डायस्टोलिक मरमर मिल सकता है ऑफ ट्राइकस्पिड ओरिजिन, तो आपको लगेगा ये तो MS है, आपको लगेगा कि MS है क्योंकि आपको मिड डायस्टोलिक मरमर मिल रहा है। लेकिन अगर आपको सेकंड साउंड स्प्लिट दिख रहा है तो आप इस गलती से बच जाओगे MS की डायग्नोसिस, आप सीधे ASD डायग्नोस करोगे, ठीक है। तो फर्स्ट साउंड स्प्लिट सस्पेक्ट RBB, और बट S1 के और कॉजेज भी हो सकते हैं, जैसे मैंने बताया अनीमिया, फीवर, थायरोटॉक्सिकोसिस, एनी कॉज ऑफ टेकिकार्डिया, ये सब लाउड S1 कर सकते हैं। ठीक है, मेरे ख्याल से आज फर्स्ट हार्ट साउंड ही करते हैं, अब इजेक्शन क्लिक अगली बार। ठीक है।